The whole room froze the moment he stood up, jaw tight, finger pointed, voice cracking through the chandeliers like a slap of thunder. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't defend herself. She simply sat there, calm, alone, and invisible, while the billionaire's team mocked her dress, her table, and her presence. But the moment the billionaire himself walked over to remove her, and she finally spoke her name, every man in that restaurant realized they had just tried to mess with the wrong woman. Before we continue, we'd love to know where you're watching from. Your support fuels stories like these. Now let's begin. The Peninsula Club smelled like old money and new desperation. Autumn Harris sat near the window, watching rain streak the glass. Her yellow dress was simple, the kind department stores sold on sale racks. She wore her natural curls in a soft bob, no jewelry except small gold hoops. The other guests wore diamonds that caught the chandelier light like warnings. She'd arrived early, alone, carrying a canvas tote instead of a clutch. The hostess had looked at her twice, checking the reservation list like there'd been a mistake. Table for Harris? Her tone suggested doubt. Autumn had simply nodded and followed her to the back corner, the table near the kitchen doors where they seated people they hoped would leave quickly. Tonight was supposed to finalize everything. Crane Pharmaceuticals needed her company's patent portfolio to survive. They'd been negotiating for months through lawyers and intermediaries. They'd never met her. Never asked to. They assumed J.A. Harris was a man, probably old, definitely white. She'd let them assume. The room buzzed with that particular energy of people who believed they mattered. Executives touched elbows. Lawyers whispered into phones. Servers moved like shadows, visible only when needed. Autumn ordered water with lemon. The server looked disappointed, like she'd failed some unspoken test. Then he walked in. Maxwell Crane moved through the room like gravity bent toward him. Tall golden hair styled with expensive carelessness, a navy suit that fit like it had been born on him. His eyes scanned the space with military precision, crystal blue and cold. Women straightened. Men adjusted their ties. He was the kind of handsome that made people nervous. His team followed close. His CFO Patrick, sharp-faced and hungry, his lawyer Victoria, all severity and red lipstick, and his sister Genevieve, ice blonde and bored. They took the center table, the one everyone could see. Staff appeared instantly with champagne no one had to order. Autumn watched from her corner. She'd seen his photo in Forbes, read the profiles that called him brilliant, ruthless, untouchable. 29 and already running an empire his grandfather built. They said he never smiled during negotiations. They said he could smell weakness through phone calls. She knew things they didn't write about, how he visited children's hospitals quarterly, anonymously funding surgeries, how he'd fired 3 executives for cutting corners on drug trials, how his mother's death from a misdiagnosed illness had turned him into something harder than grief, sharper than anger. Patrick noticed her first. He leaned toward Maxwell, voice carrying just enough. "Who let general admission in here?" Victoria glanced over, lips curling slightly. "Probably wandered in from the hotel lobby. Someone should check." Genevieve laughed, the sound like ice cracking. "I love how people think putting on a dress means they belong anywhere." Maxwell's eyes flicked toward Autumn briefly, then away, dismissive. Nothing registered. She was furniture to him, background noise. The maitre d' approached their table, deferential, spine bent. "Mr. Crane, we're still waiting for Mr. Harris. Should we delay the signing?" Maxwell's jaw tightened. "He's late to his own deal? Tell him he's got 15 minutes or I walk." Autumn lifted her water glass, took a slow sip. She could end this now. Stand up, walk over, introduce herself, watch the shock bloom across their faces. But something stopped her. Curiosity, maybe, or the sharp edge of something that felt like prophecy. She wanted to see how far they'd go. A server passed her table. Patrick flagged him down, voice loud enough for nearby tables. Hey, why is that woman sitting there? Is she waiting for someone or just lost? The server stammered. She has a reservation, sir. A reservation? Victoria laughed. For what? The employee dining room? Genevieve added, someone should tell her this isn't that kind of establishment. We have standards. Maxwell said nothing, but he didn't stop them either. His silence was permission. Autumn felt the familiar weight of it, the casual cruelty of people who'd never had to think about how they took up space. She'd felt it in boardrooms, at conferences, in every negotiation where they expected her assistant instead of her. Patrick stood up, champagne in hand, emboldened by audience and alcohol. He walked toward her table, swagger in every step. He stopped close, too close, invading the bubble of her peace. Excuse me, miss. I think there's been a confusion. This event is private, for business associates. Autumn looked up at him, expression serene. I'm aware. Her voice was soft, warm like summer honey. It seemed to confuse him. Patrick frowned. So, you're with catering? Because the staff entrance? I'm a guest, Autumn said simply. Patrick's smile turned mean. A guest of whom exactly? She could have answered, could have ended it right there. Instead, she said, does it matter? That stopped him. His face reddened. Victoria called out, Patrick, just get security. This is embarrassing. Maxwell finally spoke, voice cutting through the noise like a blade. We're here for business, not theater. Handle it quietly. Patrick leaned down, voice dropping to a harsh whisper. Look, I don't know what you think is happening here, but you need to leave before this gets uncomfortable. Autumn met his eyes. For whom? His jaw worked. Then Genevieve appeared beside him, champagne flute in hand, expression dripping false concern. Sweetie, I think there's been a genuine mix-up. This is a very exclusive event. Maybe you saw something online and thought, I didn't think anything, Autumn said quietly. I was invited. Genevieve's smile sharpened. By? Silence stretched. The room had gone quieter, people watching without watching. Maxwell stood now, moving toward them with predatory grace. Autumn's heart kicked once, hard, but her face stayed calm. He stopped at her table, looking down at her with those impossible blue eyes. Up close he was devastating, all sharp lines and coiled power. I'm going to ask once. Who are you here to meet? His voice was granite smooth, the kind of voice that expected obedience. Autumn held his gaze. Something passed between them, quick and electric, a current neither expected. His eyes narrowed slightly, like he'd felt it too and didn't trust it. J.A. Harris, she said softly. Maxwell's expression didn't change. That's who I'm meeting, so unless you're his assistant, I'm not his assistant. The words hung there. Patrick laughed nervously. Then what, you're his daughter? No. Victoria crossed her arms. His wife? No. Genevieve huffed. Then you have no reason to be at this table, waiting for a meeting that has nothing to do with you. Autumn looked at Maxwell. Only at him. You've been negotiating with me for 6 months. Every contract revision, every counteroffer, every clause you fought over. His face went very still. That's impossible. You assumed J.A. Harris was a man. I never corrected you. The words landed like stones in water, ripples spreading outward. Patrick's face went slack. Victoria's mouth opened slightly. Genevieve actually stepped back. Maxwell's eyes burned into her, searching for the lie. Finding nothing. His voice came out rough. I'm the majority shareholder and CEO of Harris Biogen. I own the patents you need. I've been sitting here for 40 minutes while you mocked me, dismissed me, and tried to have me removed from my own business meeting. The silence was absolute. Then Patrick stammered, we didn't know. That's the point, Autumn said softly, standing now. She was small, barely reached Maxwell's shoulder, but something in her presence filled the space. You didn't know, so you didn't care. Maxwell's jaw was granite. If you'd just identified yourself. I did. I gave my name at the door. I sat at the table I reserved. The fact that you couldn't imagine someone like me belonging here isn't my failure. It's yours. The words cut deep. She could see it in his eyes, the recognition, the shame he'd never show. Genevieve tried to recover. This is clearly a misunderstanding. Let's just sit down and— No. Autumn's voice stayed gentle, but steel ran underneath. I don't do business with people who treat others as less than human until they prove their worth. She picked up her canvas tote, pulled out her phone, one text. That's all it took. Maxwell's phone buzzed in his pocket, then Patrick's, then Victoria's. They looked at their screens simultaneously, and Autumn watched color drain from their faces. What? Maxwell breathed. The deal's withdrawn, Autumn said simply, effective immediately. My board has been notified. Your lawyers will receive formal termination in the morning. Patrick's voice cracked. You can't. We need those patents. The FDA approval depends on— I know exactly what depends on it. I also know my patents will matter just as much to your competitors. Victoria stepped forward, desperation breaking through her professional mask. Ms. Harris, please, can we at least discuss— There's nothing to discuss. You've shown me exactly who you are. Autumn moved past them, and the crowd parted like water. She felt eyes on her back, heard whispers ignite like wildfire. At the entrance, she paused and looked back once. Maxwell stood frozen in the center of the room, a statue of devastation in a perfect suit, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Regret, maybe, or something more dangerous. Their eyes met across the distance. That current again, stronger now, unwanted and undeniable. Then Autumn turned and walked into the rain. Behind her, she heard the first crash of falling pieces. Someone shouted, glass broke. The sound of an empire beginning to crumble. She didn't look back again. 3 days later, Maxwell found himself doing something he never did. He stood outside a modest building in a quiet neighborhood, rain soaking through his coat, staring at a bronze plaque that read Harris Biogen Research Division. He'd destroyed his CFO. Patrick was gone, fired publicly, humiliatingly. Victoria had resigned before he could demand it. Genevieve had apologized for once in her life and retreated to their estate in Connecticut. His board was in chaos. Investors were panicking. The FDA approval hung by a thread. But none of that was why he was here. He pressed the buzzer. A voice answered, professional and distant. Mr. Crane, Ms. Harris said you'd come eventually. The door clicked open. Inside, the building was warmth and light, the opposite of his chrome and glass towers. Plants hung from ceilings. Researchers worked in open labs, laughing, collaborative. Photos lined the walls. Children who'd survived cancer. Families holding babies born healthy against all odds. Communities transformed by accessible medicine. This was what she'd built. Not wealth for its own sake, but purpose with profit. Autumn appeared in a doorway, wearing jeans and a white button-down, curls pulled back, glasses perched on her nose. She looked younger here, more herself. You're persistent, she said. I needed to see you. His voice came out rougher than intended. She studied him with those deep brown eyes that seemed to see through manufactured charm straight into broken things. Why? Maxwell had rehearsed speeches, prepared arguments, crafted apologies his PR team had vetted. All of it evaporated. Because I can't stop thinking about the look in your eyes when you left. Like you expected exactly what happened, like you'd seen it before, would see it again. Something flickered across her face. I have. How often? She laughed, but it wasn't happy. Every room I enter where I'm not expected. Every negotiation where they send me coffee orders. Every time someone asks when my boss will arrive. He stepped closer. I was raised to see potential, to evaluate value. I thought I was good at it. Then you proved I'm blind to anything that doesn't fit my limited experience. She tilted her head. Is this your apology? No. An apology would suggest this can be fixed with words. I don't think it can. Then why are you here? Maxwell met her eyes. Because when you stood up to leave, something in me broke. Not my deal, not my company, me. Autumn was quiet for a long moment. Your company's failing. I know. You need my patents. I know. And you think showing up here, being vulnerable, will change my mind? No, Maxwell said softly. I think I needed you to know that I see you now. Really see you. Not as a deal or a solution or a problem to solve. As someone I wronged in a way that matters. The air between them felt electric again. Dangerous. Autumn looked away first. My answer is still no. I know. Then why do you look almost relieved? Maxwell smiled. A real one this time. Sad and genuine. Because you're not someone who can be negotiated or manipulated or convinced. You're someone who has to choose, and I'd rather have your honest no than a coerced yes. Autumn's breath caught. No one had ever said anything like that to her. In this industry, everyone wanted something, needed something, would say anything to get it. You should go, she whispered. I know, but he didn't move. Neither did she. The moment stretched, fragile and impossible. Then Autumn did something that surprised them both. There's a community clinic downtown. Thursday nights, they treat people who can't afford care. I volunteer there. Maxwell's eyes widened slightly. Why are you telling me this? Because if you show up, not as Maxwell Crane, not as a CEO, not as someone trying to save a deal, if you show up as someone who wants to understand why your patents aren't enough, why reputation matters, why I can't separate business from humanity, maybe we'll talk. No promises? None? No guarantees? Not even close. Maxwell nodded slowly. Thursday. Maybe. He turned to leave, then paused. Autumn? It was the first time he'd said her name. She felt it like a hand against her heart. I've been called a lot of things. Ruthless, brilliant, untouchable. But watching you walk away, I realized I've never been called worthy. And I want to be for you. He left before she could respond. Autumn stood in the hallway, heart pounding, mind racing. She'd expected groveling or anger or manipulation, not honesty, not vulnerability, not the kind of raw truth that made her question everything she'd decided about him. Her assistant appeared. He's gone? Yeah. You okay? Autumn touched her chest, feeling her pulse jump. I don't know. Thursday came. The clinic was chaos as always. Crying children, exhausted parents, illnesses that should have been caught months ago but poverty made invisible. Autumn worked triage, her hands gentle, her voice soft, making people feel human when the world had stripped that away. She didn't think he'd come. Men like Maxwell Crane didn't show up to places like this. Then she saw him through the glass doors, wearing jeans and a plain shirt, golden hair wet from rain, looking completely lost. He carried bags from a grocery store. Her heart kicked. He approached the reception desk, awkward and uncertain, expressions she'd never seen on his face. I'm here to help if you need it. The receptionist looked skeptical. You a doctor? No, but I can carry things, clean, whatever you need. Autumn appeared in the doorway. Their eyes met. He's with me, she said softly. Maxwell's face transformed, relief and something deeper flooding his features. For the next 4 hours, she watched him work. He held crying babies while their mothers filled out forms. He mopped floors when someone got sick. He sat with an elderly man who had no family, just listening to stories about a life well lived. He never complained, never checked his phone, never acted like he was above any of it. And when a little girl with leukemia asked if he was a prince because of his golden hair, he knelt down and said no. But you're definitely a princess. By midnight, the clinic was closing. They stood in the parking lot, exhausted and rain-soaked. You came back, Autumn said. I told you I would. People tell me things all the time. They rarely mean them. Maxwell stepped closer, and this time she didn't step back. I'm not people, and when I say something to you, I mean it. The rain fell harder. She should go home, should maintain distance, should protect herself from the pull she felt toward this man who'd hurt her, who came from a world that had never wanted her, who looked at her now like she was the only solid thing in a collapsing universe. "My patents aren't for sale," she whispered. "I know. Your company's going to fail without them." "Probably, and you're still here." Maxwell reached out slowly, giving her time to move away. She didn't. His hand cupped her face, thumb brushing her cheek. "I'm here because the only thing I want more than saving my company is earning your respect. And if I have to lose everything to prove that, I will." Autumn's eyes burned. "You can't mean that. Try me." She kissed him. It wasn't planned or careful or wise. It was rain and desperation and the collision of two people who shouldn't work, but somehow did. Maxwell's arms came around her, solid and sure, pulling her close like she was precious. Like she mattered more than empires. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Autumn whispered, "This doesn't fix anything." "I know. Your family will hate me. Your board will fight you. The world will question everything. Let them." He pressed his forehead to hers. "I spent my whole life building something my grandfather started. I never questioned if it mattered. Then you stood up and walked away, and I realized I'd built a kingdom on sand." "You're the first real thing I've ever wanted." Autumn pulled back, studying his face in the rain and streetlight. "I need time. Take all you need. And if I decide this is impossible, then I'll respect that. But I'll still show up here every Thursday, not to convince you, just to be the man you make me want to become." 3 months later, Autumn stood in the conference room of her company, facing her board. The merger proposal from Crane Pharmaceuticals is comprehensive. Maxwell has restructured his entire leadership, fired everyone involved in that night, donated 40% of company profits to community healthcare initiatives, made access to medicine, not profit, the company mission. Her CFO frowned. "That doesn't erase what happened." "No," Autumn agreed. "But people don't change overnight. They change in 1,000 small choices." He's made every single one. The vote was close, but it passed. When Autumn called Maxwell, his voice shook. "You're sure?" "No," she said honestly. "But I believe in second chances for people who've done the work to deserve them." The new company, Harris Crane Biogen, launched 6 months later. The press called it the merger of the decade. What they didn't know was that it started with humiliation, rejection, and a man learning to see past his privilege. And a woman brave enough to believe in transformation. At the launch party, Maxwell found Autumn on the balcony looking at the city lights. He wrapped his arms around her from behind, chin resting on her head. "I never thanked you. For the patents? For seeing past who I was to who I could be." She turned in his arms, lacing her fingers behind his neck. "You did that yourself. I just held the mirror." "You're the love of my life, Autumn Harris." Her smile could have lit the whole city. "Prove it every day, Maxwell Crane." "Deal." He kissed her under the stars, and somewhere in the building below, a company built on redemption hummed with life. Because some stories don't start with love. They start with someone being underestimated, someone else learning humility, and two people finding each other in the wreckage of broken assumptions. And that sometimes is the most powerful beginning of all. If you want more stories where power shifts, hearts change, and second chances feel earned, hit the subscribe button and don't forget to share. Justice and love land clean when they're built on truth.